Shalom, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi, and in this video we'll talk about the subject of order out of chaos. Order out of chaos. And we'll look at the phrase Tohu Bohu. Tohu Bohu occurs in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. We read, Veha'aretz hayata tohu bohu. The word is actually bohu, but then with the conjunction and in the way that it is written here, the vowel change rules require the beth not to have the dagesh, and therefore we say vohu, whereas the actual word is bohu. Tohu vohu vechoshek al pene tehom veruach Elohim merahefet al pene hamayim. So the earth was without form and void, or you can say, people say empty and formless and empty. And the darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face, or hovered upon the face of the waters. Now, tohu vohu, without form and void. This phrase is interesting. It occurs in two more places, both the verses. Well, the word tohu occurs in many places as well as bohu, but actually both together, right, occur in three places. One we have already seen. And the other, of course, is in the book of Isaiah and also in Jeremiah, which I'm going to show you shortly. But I want you to just pay attention to this one here, that when the earth was without form and void, or like when there was, it's empty and chaotic, right? God said, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or, let there be light. Vayhi or, vayar Elohim et ha-or kito, vayavdel Elohim ben ha-or uven ha-choshek. God said, let there be light, and God saw that the light was good, and He divided the light from the darkness. So we're going to look at these two words, or and vayavdel. Now, before that, as I said, tohu vohu occurs here in Isaiah 34:11. Here we read the cormorant and bittern. So these are like, some people translate it as a porcupine and some other hedgehog. Whatever animals are generally in the wilderness where people don't live and where there is no vegetation, or you have something. It's not a place where it is cultivated, etc. It's a wilderness. The cormorant and the bittern shall possess, and the owl also, and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. So a city cannot be properly built there, because the stretching of the line is about the measurement and checking the alignment and the verticalness and the horizontal, the plumb line basically, right? So we read here, kav tohu, so the line of confusion. Tohu is confusion, vohu is emptiness here in Isaiah 34:11. There is another passage in Jeremiah chapter 4 verse 23 and verse 20 to 26. This is written in the context of God going to destroy the city. I think it is about Jerusalem or the cities in Judea, and the prophet cites this scenario, whether it is a vision of the city itself or a vision of something in the past, which then is mapped onto what would happen to the city. I saw the earth, and behold, it was waste and void. Here we read, Vehinne tohu vohu. Exact phrase tohu vohu occurs in Jeremiah 4:23. And behold, it was waste and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. There was no light. Ve'ein oram, no light. It's a similar scenario. And it says there were no mountains, and the mountains trembled, and the hills moved back and forth. And there was no man, and the birds had fled. And behold, the fruitful field was a wilderness, and all the cities of it were broken down at the presence of Hashem, of YHWH, of God, because of His fierce anger. So essentially, this is a scenario of judgment. And so there is a theory that Genesis 1 and verse 2 indicates a sort of a judgment that was brought about upon the heavens and the earth of the previous heavens and the earth. That's where we are. And then God said, let there be light, and he starts a new creation. Okay. The rabbis have been saying that what God did before, people ask the question, what did God do before he created the world? So they used to generally answer with the answer and say that he used to create the worlds and destroy the worlds, and this is the world we are in. And this is a standard answer they used to give. And so, so it is not only in the Jewish theology, it is also in the Christian theology, where the people they call this as a gap theory in Genesis 1 and verse 2. In either case, God created this world, the current world that we live in, from chaos. Previously, of course, where was the chaos? How did it come about? However it came about, he created it from that point onwards. So, Or is of course light. And why is light required, and why is light the first thing, is the question we're going to look at. Because light is required to be able to distinguish. And we read here the next verb here, YHVH, and he divided the light from the darkness. So God divides a lot of things in Genesis chapter 1, which we're going to look at shortly. But in order to divide, you should be able to tell the distinction. And if you cannot tell the distinction, you can't divide. So the light is the one which sheds light. I mean, the light needs to be shed upon things in order to tell the difference between A and B. So this word YHVH comes from the root Beth Dalet Lamed. It means to divide, or actually to make a distinction. Okay. So why do we need a light? To make a distinction. Now here is an example of is in the dark space. You can't really make out what's in the dark, even though if the darkness is not 100%. In the picture you can see, you can't really make out which make is it and what features are there, because it's dark. If you put a huge amount of light completely, it is dazzled and it will overwhelm the signal coming from the motorcycle here. And in this case too, you will not be able to see what's in there. The only way you can see it very clearly is then when the light and darkness are divided, in the sense that the light is divided and the right lights in the spectrum are absorbed by the correct, with the different portions of the motorcycle. Some of them are absorbed, some of them are reflected at different wavelengths, etc. And we see all the colors, and the clarity of the object emerges. And we know clearly what's there, and what is not there, and what are the details, etc. We can read the numbers. Right, so that's about light and darkness, division of light and darkness. This is the first point of creating order out of chaos. So to divide and to make a distinction between the light and the darkness is what God has done. Now if you look at how many distinctions God has made in chapter 1, you can read through and see many of them. I have listed a few of them here. We have light versus darkness. We have the day and night. The waters were separated. He created a firmament in the midst of the waters, and he separated the waters above the firmament from the waters below the firmament. And all the waters below the firmament are gathered together, and the dry land appeared, and he divided the dry land from the oceans. He separated the dry land from the oceans. Again, we read that verb badal, so YHVH. In the end, of course, when he created man, we read that male and female he created them. So we see all these distinctions. So shedding the light and making distinctions between categories is one of the key elements of bringing order to chaos. So here we have a child's exercise. Obviously, children are given these pebbles or whatever blocks with different sizes, etc. You have various characteristics. So how do you sort them? You could sort by color. You could sort by shape. You could sort by size. But you notice here that they're all sorted spatially, meaning in the x-axis and the y-axis, we have 3 spatial axes in this world. So you can sort out different things by their categories, by their properties, spatially. But you can also divide or categorize from a time manner. We have this time, day and night, right? And seasons and years and days God has given, like that is mentioned in the book of Genesis as well. He created 2 lights for seasons, for Moadim, etc. Okay, so that's about characterization. Now, if you look at this one here, this is here is the time separation, separation between 2 things in time. So here, if you see any of one of them, there is a separation, but that separation changes over time. So this is how the real world systems obviously work, which we know. Now here is a summary of a framework of how to create order out of chaos. This is basically created using Genesis chapter 1, thanks to ChatGPT. And I asked it to create a proper table, like how, management consultants, like McKinsey, they create things. And I gave it the text of Genesis 1. I said, hey, create an order, create a framework to bring out order out of chaos in a proper structural manner. So it gives a 4-phase step: clarify context, build structure, populate and align, sustain and reflect. Here we see here the Sabbath, institutionalize and integration. So it is basically linking the Sabbath, the rest, with the rest and reflection. You see the cycles which are there. Somewhere we see the establish foundational anchors and introduce systems, flows or protocols. So here we see the sun and the moon and stars. There is a cyclical patterns, days and years and seasons, etc. Right. So you can pause this if you want, take a snapshot. This is a very interesting framework to bring order out of chaos in generic systems. Japanese are known for very high quality manufacturing, especially of the cars, and Toyota cars are very famous, have been in the past. In America, they sold a lot of cars, and they became famous for Japanese manufacturing because they follow a certain pattern. There is something known as lean manufacturing people follow, and their procedures are basically about bringing order to chaos. And there is a system called 5S. Well, these are the names: Ceres, Seton, etc. 5S. These are the English names. You can pause and look at it. This is essentially to bring in order to the workplace or to the factory, etc. And one of the phrases that caught my attention is this one: a place for everything and everything in its place. A place for everything is the definition. That is, you define where what should be, and then you actualize it. That is, you put the thing in its place. And when you take it off to do something else, you put it back in the place where it ought to be. Right, now that immediately rang the bell, and I went to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter, I'm going to go to the Ecclesiastes chapter 3 shortly, about the time, and there is a time for everything, etc. I'll come to that. But there is also a verse in the Bible, a couple of verses in a couple of places. There is one in Judges as well. But here, let's look at the verse in Numbers, where we read about this phrase, Ish al Yado, every man in his place. Now, the context of this is about the setting of the camp of Israelites, how they are supposed to sit, who is going to sit where, and then when they set out, when the cloudy pillar moves out of the camp, they have to, or the fire, pillar of fire, the glory of the Lord moves out of the camp. They have to start moving, setting for this. They should set forward in a certain sequence. Who should go first? Who should go next? etc. Those are revealed very clearly. And here we read that the tabernacle of the congregation shall set forward with the camp of the Levites in the midst of the camp, and as they encamp, so shall they set forward, every man in his place by their standards. Standards are the poles or the flags, are their symbols. Every man in his place. This is very similar to what we read here. A place for everything and everything in its place. Every man in his place. Here we have the layout of the 12 tribes of Israel when they are rested, when they are encamped around the tabernacle. And the priests, and the Levites are all sitting around in the close circle within the inner circle. We have Moses, Aaron, and the priests. And then Merarites, the Gershonites, the Merarites and the Kohathites, again camped around the tabernacle, and around them all the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is another picture of all the 12 tribes of Israel. Even within each tribe there is an arrangement, as you can see, beautifully made, and they encamp in the particular order, and they decamp, or where they set out in a particular order. There's a beauty and an order in all that God does. Here in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 to 2 we read, Lechol zaman ve'et lechol hefetz tachat hashamayim. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. So, and then Solomon lists a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted, and he goes on with few more things. The point is there is a time for every purpose, for a time for every season, every purpose. Okay, so now what? What are we saying? Well, we're saying that the arrangement of the things in space and in time by their categories, by their properties, and by their purpose is what brings the order to chaos. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon. Also do comment below, and I will see you with another video as soon as I can. Thank you very much.